right, very good. Well, for those of you that are on the phone, welcome to the webinar. We'll do our best to be as descriptive as we can so you can kind of picture some of the things that we've actually got on the slides on the PowerPoint presentation. We're going to be talking for the next 45 minutes or so about how we can really take a more deep look at harnessing our extrasensory perception. Extrasensory perception was all the rage back in the 60s and 70s. The universities were testing it and exploring it. You could translate that into spiritual sensitivity or psychic sensitivity or psychic awareness or intuitiveness. But that whole idea of, that we're all very sensitive is what this seminar is all about tonight. We're going to be exploring the different ways that we can do things, and want to have us share co-host Roger Ringo, and we'll share a little bit about each other. If you want to go to that next slide, Roger. Again, I'm Paul Kellogg. Again, a couple other people that have gotten on. Petra and Heather, welcome. I've been involved in spiritual studies and spiritual education work for close to 50 years. I got involved because I was very sensitive and psychic, call that what you will. As a child, I sensed things and knew things and saw things, and it became a life exploration. And I also began to create a career with that by helping other people to understand their experiences. And my wife and our programs that you hear about a little bit later, we have 5 children and raised them in all of this, and they all practice it in their own way with their families and their businesses and so on. So it's great to share with Roger tonight because we've known each other for almost all that time, and our kids grew up together attending the youth programs that practice some of these things in a team-building kind of way. And Roger, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, I'm here. I just had to, I forgot to mute you all out so that there wouldn't be any background noise. Roger Ringo here. I live in Des Moines, Iowa. And similar to Paul, I first encountered the New Spiritual Horizons spiritual programs that we're going to be referring to tonight back in my middle 20s. And I was searching for how to unfold my own psychic sensitivity. I wanted to see an aura, and I wanted to talk to my angels. And I attended a community program and started my path. And it's been a fascinating journey using my ESP or extrasensory perception at work and at home with relationships and helping to raise my children. So we want to make this evening very practical and very informative about how ESP is a part of all of our lives. And one thing for everyone who is attending online, you will see in the little control box a little gray oval message. If you click on that, that's our message board. And if you have any questions along the way, feel free to type those questions in, and we'll try to answer them throughout the evening. Especially at the end, we will have a question and answer time. And we may also just, at time, just open up the phone lines and let you share on what that means to you. So we want to make this as interactive as possible so that we can all learn from one another. So what we're going to be covering tonight is, is our extrasensory perception and how to harness that. And through that, Paul and I both have been involved with a program called New Spiritual Horizons. It's a community-based spiritual development program that really helps to make the spirituality practical and find answers that maybe we've all been searching throughout our life but could never quite find an answer that fits. So ESP occurs every day. It's also known as our sixth sense. And in our New Spiritual Horizons programs, we work with, on a weekly basis, how to start creating a spiritual lifestyle and how to find answers, to those important questions that are part of our life, and realizing that we do have angels and how to communicate with them. So it's very practical, and overall it's more of a broad-based program that lays solid foundations for a person's spiritual quest. So the topics we're going to cover tonight is going to be in the area of what is mindful extrasensory perception and the 4 ways that we actually experience it. There's more than one method of ESP. And there's, towards the end, you're going to learn how you can get involved and unfold your ESP too, and learn how to trust those hunches that come to you, throughout the day. And at the end, there also will be a question and answer period where you can follow up, and we'll try to answer any questions you may have. So, Paul, why don't you share on this slide?
Yeah, so this is an overview, big picture of what the entire New Spiritual Horizons community program dives into. There's an overview lecture that we normally do to start out as an orientation for everyone. And so this chart, which has been in existence since the early 60s, it's gone around the world into 40 different countries. It's a really basic look at what life on planet Earth is really all about. And I'm going to cover just a couple of key things. If you have more interest in the different subject matters in here, at the end, well, again, we're going to show you how you can get more involved. What you'll find is you'll experience what we're talking about tonight at your own level. You've done a lot of searching. If you've been involved in other methods and modalities, you'll take the things that we have in New Spiritual Horizons and adapt it to your style and dive deeper into what is really your next step or your next spiritual horizon, if you will. There's always something new. There's always something more out in the universe that we can learn and grow in. There's just no end to it, which makes life here on planet Earth very, very exciting. And that middle figure there in the chart, stick man, those of you that are just on the phone and can't see that, it's a little stick man, and it's got a little halo above the stick man's head, stick person's head. That's a symbol for you and me. And this is the most integral part of everything we talk about, is that I am a soul with a physical body, not the other way around. I don't have a soul. I am a soul. And that emphasis is very powerful in the New Spiritual Horizons techniques and demonstrations that you can experience. Planet Earth is like a great school, and souls come from all over our galaxy system to learn and grow in this school. And that's what Planet Earth is really all about, is just learning and growing. And all the things that we have happening around us are part of that process of souls experiencing greater and greater dimensions of growth. And sometimes it's challenging. Sometimes we go through a lot of things in order to grow, but that's the point of it. When we pass on and move back out into that universe or return to God or the Father, which religion might say, science says you're a total component of all things. You can't create or destroy energy. So when we go back out into that universe, check out and move forward, we take with us whatever it is that we've put together in this life. So we're this kind of the sum total of all the wisdom that we've gathered throughout time. As a soul, I always have been, and I always will be in one form or another. That's pure energy. It's intelligent energy. That's the energy that you emanate throughout 24/7. Even when you're asleep, you're emanating energy. We're like radio receivers and transmitters. We're constantly sending out thoughts and feelings, and we're constantly being bombarded by the energies that are around us in our environment and the people that are close to us. So that's what creates extrasensory perception. It's the sensing of what's happening with that energy. Just like we have eyes and ears to see and hear with, we also have an inner vision. We also have an inner hearing. And Roger and I are going to be sharing more about each of those ways that we experience. There's lots of different things that we go through in the orientation programs that we do, 7-year cycles of how you evolve with your life, the balance of your your abilities to be in science, religion, and society experiences, a little bit more about what happens when souls pass on. Roger referenced angels. We talk about inner guidance or guides, spirit guides, messengers, angels, lots of different names for that higher source of inspiration. And one of, again, the key factors is helping a person to understand their style of how they communicate, with their extrasensory perception. So there's basically 4 ways that you do that, and they're all very, very important. There's one that tends to be primary, although we each have all 4 of those. You can develop all 4 of those. You can expand, but there's one that you make your decisions on and also communicate out to other people. So understanding that helps us to understand and comprehend more of what's going on around us. We have personality characteristics within each of those 4 areas. And when I'm communicating with my loved ones, my spouse, who is involved in this work with me, knowing how she does it, and if she's visual, which she is, very visual, I'm more of a hearing, clairaudient type person. To be able to know that it's just amazing. And we're going to talk more about how you can leverage your understanding of these 4 areas in your relationships and the work you do as we go forward. And then the other thing is that your inner guidance, or those guides, those angels, they will communicate with you, and you will pick up the perceptions of what they're sharing with you through those 4 types, and especially your first type. So as we go through the webinar, the rest of the webinar this evening, kind of make note of what you can relate to, what you have an affinity with, what you see in other people. Well, my husband's this way, or my boss is this way, or one of my coworkers is like this, because if you can communicate with them where they are, life becomes a lot easier, and instead of ships passing in the night, we really can connect with each other. So the very first one that we want to talk about is the perception of intuition. This is the clairaudient part of you. People that are strong in this pick up energy, and they instantly put a thought to it. Intuition, if you look it up in the dictionary, means instant understanding. You intuit it. And that's how they perceive life, is through those thoughts. They have to understand things. They're very idea-oriented or concept-oriented. When they can understand it, then they can move into action. If they don't understand it or have the facts, it's very hard for them to be able to move forward. Because of their instant ability to comprehend things, they tend to very quickly get involved in leadership. They tend to be that born leader, that one that wants to create the system and organize the baseball game on the playground. And they love to be in charge and help move things forward. They're very direct with people. They love a challenge. It's not that they don't handle pressure so well. It's that they love the challenge of what that is all about. And their ability to quickly size things up, they get along with people real well if they can understand where they're coming from. They love to move into action sometimes before all the details are known. And quite frankly, they're not really as much detail-oriented. You'll see the detail orientation in some of the other perceptions. They like that big picture. They like that overall system. And sometimes they often hear, or they'll sense energy, and it's like they'll almost blurt out what you're thinking because they're so sensitive to the thoughts and experiences of people around them. So that's the first one. Some of you may have that quality, and Roger's going to go into the next ones.
Thanks, Paul. A second type of perception is what we call the type of vision, and that is the clairvoyant part of you. Now, you will have all 4 of these that we're talking about, but you'll notice that some will seem a little stronger, more dominant. So the clairvoyant part of you is the part of you that just by nature you tend to form pictures or images from impressions. That's the part of you that as you walk into another room, you notice details that other people may overlook. That's the part of you that grasps an overall situation very easily, and you very easily see all facets of a project. And the intuitive person is a little more direct and straightforward, and at times they may seem a little brusque, if you will, because they're very forceful, straightforward. The visionary is more of that sunny personality. They tend to be the optimist and see the best in all people and situations. So this is the clairvoyant part of you, and it's also the part that if you like a neat, attractive environment, if you're the type of person who maybe always makes sure your desk is cleaned up before leaving for work, or all your tools are put away in a very neat and orderly fashion, then this is your visionary, or what we call the clairvoyant part. So there again, we all have that gift, but it just may be stronger in some people than others. Spiritually, this is also the gift that sees the aura, or you see more than what is really there physically. That's what clairvoyant means. It's clear seeing, or seeing more than what the eyeballs physically see. So then a third type of perception is what we call the gift of prophecy. And this is the part of you that has an inner knowing. And that is when you know, but you don't know how you know, that's the gift of prophecy. A visionary will say, yeah, I see that happening. Yeah, I could see that happening. Your intuitive part will say, I understand. Yeah, I get it. I understand. Well, your prophetic part just knows, and they don't know how they know. But it's a very a strong gift of trust. So spiritually, this is also the gift of trance, and that is that ability to kind of step aside, if you will, and let one of your angels or high spirit guides to speak through you. In the spiritual field, there's a lot of what's known as trance mediums, and these are people who like Edgar Cayce. Many of you may have heard of Edgar Cayce, and where he would go into this trance-like state and start talking, and then a very interesting health and wellness and different topics. But then when he would wake up, he would not remember anything that he had said. He needed someone to transcribe while he was in this trance state. So when you're in that full trance and you kind of daydream out and don't remember what you daydreamed, that's a full trance. So this is from a personality standpoint, because in each of these gifts, there's the spiritual sensitivity aspect, or the psychic sensitivity, you might say, and then there's also personality traits and characteristics. And this is really to me, the magic, and what I found very fascinating about these four types of ESP is not only is it the psychic part, but it helps to understand myself, you might say, from a psychological or personality traits and characteristics. The prophetic person is usually very creative and very unconventional in their ideas and interests. And a lot of times, they're the kind of person who kind of bounces from A to C to G to F to Z, and it kind of seems like they're all over the place, but they're just flowing in their own pace. So this is someone who's a little more unpredictable, more unconventional in their ideas, very, very creative, a prophetic creative artist, paints pictures or creates their artwork that's very unpredictable and unconventional. These are usually the artists that we would describe as being out there, or they're a little more far out, because they're not really concerned about having something practical or having it as an example of a picture that you would see on a landscape. A visionary artist, when they paint a landscape, it would be a replica of what they see. A prophetic artist creating a landscape might be some abstract, painting that you vaguely would know it's a landscape, but there's a certain futuristic, abstract aspects to it. So that's the characteristics of that prophetic creativity. But it's a person who really cares about people, and they like to plan ahead, and they're very responsive to the feelings and ideas of others. They have kind of like that diplomatic, as a diplomat kind of state of consciousness. Anything else you'd like to add on that vision or prophecy, Paul?
I think we're good, Roger.
Okay, well, let's go on to the gift of feeling.
Okay, well, the gift of feeling is not the thoughts, it's not the pictures, it's not the knowings. They just feel it. That same energy that the intuitive hears or senses in a thought, the feeling person just experiences. It's a sensation. It feels like they're swimming. It feels heavy. It feels light. It feels easy. It feels hard. And they express themselves like that. They talk about it from the point of the way that it feels. I don't feel good here. The vibes don't seem clear to me. So their whole perception comes from the sense, and that because of that, they love to touch. They love how things feel. They love to work with their hands. They enjoy detail work, and especially as it comes to the experience of their hands. They're natural healers because when they feel it, they exude that energy. They express it. They're able to feel what other people feel, so they're very empathic in terms of all that. And when they're very clear on that, they're able to translate that into love and giving, and it creates a real uplifting, healing vibration. They're very, very aware of what's going on with people. A person can look good, they can sound good, but yet the feeling person feels something in the energy that isn't quite clear. They don't feel the sunny disposition of the visionary. They can feel the concern of the visionary that seems sunny, but really they're putting on the sunny airs, but really underneath there's something that's troubling, and the feeling person is really very aware of that. They have a tremendous amount of energy. They're very outgoing, very friendly. They can walk into a room and just lift up that room with their positive energy. The aura that they have, if you will, just exudes that sense of fun and delight and so forth. They tend to be more of the following person, whereas the intuitive is more of that born leader type. The feeling people make great leaders, but rather than plan the meeting, and they just want to get in and do it. Just give me some direction and let me go with it. So you often find them in the arenas where they can just really put heart and soul into it without having to be some kind of big organizational effort. You find them a lot in the medical professions or the healing arts because of their desire to want to be of service and help people. They need a blueprint. They need to know where their responsibility begins and ends. And they're extremely dedicated and loyal to the work that they do. They have a certain sense of devotion about things, but it's not so much outside themselves. It's just when they feel good about something, they put their whole heart and soul into it. They commit to it. So you can really count with them to be able to follow through on what they do. And again, they're very sensitive to the touch. So psychometry, or clairsensia, which means clear sensing, is the way that they will process that ESP capability. So again, we have all four of these. They can all be unfolded. They can all be developed. The key is to be able to put that into practical application. Make ESP something that's practical in your daily living. So here are some examples. Let me give you just a couple of examples. If you're a prophetic person and you have those unconventional ideas and you always have a sense of being a little bit different, or that creativity that Roger was talking about, it's really important for you not to allow doubt to creep in there, to really trust yourself and to capture that bigger picture of that joyful expression that you really have. And if you're around people like that, around children like that, it's finding a way to help them to continue to have that creativity while they're respecting the boundaries of life and so on, but not to thwart that or not to put a lid on that creativity, because they're actually the ones that'll get out and, as Roger was sharing, create those beautiful musicals on Broadway, or write a television show, or author a book, or create a new business, because they have that ability to see beyond or sense and know beyond what the logical, rational area might be. If you're a visionary, or you know people that are visionary, the conservative energy or traditional energy comes from the point of view that when they see it, that's life. That's what they commit to, is what they see. Sometimes it's hard for them to change a little bit because they're seeing what they see, and that change, the next picture or the alternative picture, has to float in there, and it has to make sense. They have to be able to see how it's going to fit into a new way of doing things. So they're very strong about maintaining the systems and the routines of that clarity. And sometimes that can be interpreted as being rigid or perfectionistic, but really they're just wanting to have the highest of standards. The visionary part is the part that helps us raise standards up. And so they have a very strong sense for the balance and harmony of things, and don't like it when things are upset, in the household and so on. There tend to be colors that are associated with these four perceptions, just because of the vibration of what we're talking about. And purple, to talk about the prophetic part for just a moment, that really captures the essence of what the prophetic part's all about, because it's very regal, very majestic, very magical, and it brings things about very easily. Purple out in life tends to relate to that. In religious circles, oftentimes you'll see the purple robes and things like that, because in royalty, it represents that kind of energy. Yellow, that sunny, bright sunshine yellow, is the essence of what the visionary part is all about. When they see it, it's amazing. It's just beautiful. It's like the sunset I saw tonight. It was brilliant red. It was one of the reddest sunsets I've ever seen, and that joyful color was very strong for my visual sense of things. Made me happy. Made me feel yellow. How about the next ones, Roger?
One other observation, Paul, on this,
Yeah.
On the prophecy and vision for everyone. What's interesting in relationships, there's a tendency that we have in our relationships or close friends opposites of who we are. There's just something innate about a lot of time attracting, really good friends who are opposite, characteristic-wise, of who we are. And one combination that is a very interesting combination, if you're a visual person, like the visionary clairvoyant type, and if you're married or you have a close relationship with a prophetic person, you're kind of on two different sides of the fence, that at times that uniqueness can be the source of a certain amount of unintended conflict. Because the prophetic, if you're very high in prophecy, you don't like being pinned down. You like to flow. But you don't know how you know. And so it can be difficult communicating that inner knowing to someone who's a little more systematic and organized, like the visionary type person. And if you're, and vice versa. So these, these traits and characteristics of each of the gifts, once I have a better understanding of how these four work and how they're very unique in their own right, then it's a little easier to accept other people as they are, because there can be a tendency that if I'm a visual type person, I'm going to get this prophetic person organized. You know, I'm going to put them in a box and I'm going to make them more systematic. Well, that's like, you know, oil and water, you know, it just doesn't mix. But it's a little easier to accept, you know, everybody for their uniqueness and individuality, and keep that love alive rather than letting differences in style sabotage, you know, our relationship. So in our classes and programs and some of the ways to follow up that we're going to be talking about in a few minutes, this, you know, finding out what your primary ESP style is and what the style is of other people in your life, it really makes a difference of taking the stress and pressure off.
Yeah, beautifully said, Roger. I know that I can relate to what you're talking about with my visionary spouse. She's very strong in that. I'm very strong in the intuitive part. So sometimes she sees things that I can't see what she's trying to describe. I don't understand that picture. And sometimes I have ideas that she can't create a picture about. So by being patient and really reverent with each other and listening very closely, going the extra mile to have that understanding, because we do care about each other, it really is a lifesaver. It can save a marriage. It can save a relationship. It can save a job, because now you know where your boss is coming from, and where that coworker is coming from. It just helps to see the differences in how we relate. At the same time, it also, when somebody is unique to me in my relationship, it actually helps me unfold that area. My last perception in the lineup is vision, and Susan has helped me to unfold that more. So I'm a much more balanced person. So it's really honoring all the perceptions that we have and knowing that you have opportunity to grow in every way. The intuitive person, because of that strength, Roger kind of referred to it, they very much need to call the shots for themselves, at least for themselves. And they will naturally. It's not that they have to do it or they try hard to do it. It's just they naturally find themselves wanting to be in charge or wanting their idea to be accepted and so on. Because of that strength that they have, they'll tend to dominate things unless they've grown out of that. If they've grown out and know how to have that fairness and sense of justice to allow everybody to shine, they go a long way when they've developed that. They can become the most beautiful leaders, because you actually don't know that you're being led by a balanced intuitive, because they help everybody find their best niche and build on that genius of everyone. They can get caught up in the excessive details. They just don't want to get involved in the details. The people who tend to talk too much, they can get bored by the routine activities. They always want to move forward and advance and so on. That intuitive part is just very bold. It's part of you that just goes after the solution. Intuitives are very, very solution-oriented. Their motto is, if you're not part of the solution, you're probably part of the problem. Or if I'm not part of the solution, I'm probably exacerbating the problem and not allowing the solutions to step forward. So they're very, very bold about going to get that. And that whole energy of the intuitive part has to do with that red action-oriented energy. Feeling energy. Now again, that feeling energy feels the entire universe all at once. They just feel, whether it's heavy or light, they're experiencing it all. When they're out of balance or they're not taking care of themselves, they're taking care of everybody else but not taking care of themselves, they can almost become psychic garbage cans, because they just pick everything up. It's important for them to really discern what is me and what is not me. That's where their intuitive part can really help them to size up the situation better, not get involved in things that is not in their best interest. So they can get overwhelmed by the negative thoughts or emotions that are around them because they feel it. So it's really good for a person strong and feeling to start having a certain sense of self-loyalty. There's nothing wrong with taking care of myself. If I'm sick in bed, how can I help anybody else? So they have to come to grips with that deep, deep love that they have, the healing energy that they have, wanting to help and be of service, and at the same time, knowing when it's not their business, that they need to let somebody else grow and learn in their own way. Because they love to work with their hands, you find them with all kinds of projects going. They're always fixing stuff, always trying to rearrange things so that it feels better to them. Again, very caring and empathetic. And blue is what captures the essence of the feeling energy, that really gentle inner peace kind of energy. Roger, anything else on the intuitive or feeling part you want to share?
Just real simply, if you're a very sensitive, feeling-oriented person, there could be a tendency that when you're around an intuitive person, for example, who has that stronger, more direct, dominating presence, you may feel intimidated, or you feel like it's hard to make your point. And so it's just, I think the important aspect of these four gifts and seeing my traits in there is helping me to accept me for who I am, and there's nothing wrong with me just because I'm different. Intuitives just tend to be tick-charged and a little more forceful, and if they happen to get a little out of balance and under pressure, then they'll be intimidating if you're a blue person as the feeling gift. And so there again, it's not that there's anything wrong with each of these gifts. It's just if I don't understand who I am and where other people are coming from, I may misinterpret what's really happening in the dynamics of that situation. And just through the years, I've been working with this for over 40 years, and what I find that's really fascinating is the simplicity of understanding each of these four gifts that help me in so many ways. Because there's other systems like, astrology is a wonderful system, but you have, there's like 12 different things to try to understand and put into a context. And it's very accurate, it's very good, but kind of like as a person starting out, I like this because it's workable really quick and helping me to understand situations and relationships.
All right, so a part of you'll hear us talk a lot about, and in the workshops that we do, you actually experience techniques and demonstrations where you can see how those gifts operate. You can see an aura, so you can see how that clairvoyant part of you works. We show people how to see the energy field around another person and make that useful. If you can see something that is around a person with that clairvoyant part or your visionary part, help you understand that person a little bit better. And also what you're feeling and picking up from that person's energy and so forth. So part of the idea is that we make this very, very useful. And I think we've been referring to it throughout the descriptions here that the more I'm clear about that, the easier it is for me to relate with people. The visionary part can get very caught and rigid about their picture. As a dynamic intuitive, that's an immovable force, making an irresistible object. So there has to be that awareness of those things. If there's a prophetic person that just really doesn't want to connect and they're moving around in that escaping kind of vibration, as that intuitive person that wants the facts, if I'm not careful, I can get frustrated about just trying to get some kind of an answer. Give me any answer. So, there are those challenging pieces to each of these perceptions, but the overriding energy of them, it's just very dynamic and beautiful and positive, all the positive traits. If I understand that prophetic is that very creative part, and I can inspire them to show me something that they're feeling or sensing or they're picking up, that helps that person to come out and find that sense of harmony and balance and so forth. And again, as I said earlier, it begins to help me relax with all four perceptions, that I can use that visionary part to create a better picture for my employees so they can see more clearly what it is that I'm asking rather than just telling them. The visionary person is the kind of person that wants to, you have to describe the directions. Go down to the big spruce tree on the right and you'll see the McDonald's with the golden arches. Turn right next to the mailbox there and it's the second house, the blue shutters on the right. Intuitive person, 2 blocks down, turn to the left, second house on the right. So knowing all that helps me to broaden out how I communicate and helps to adapt to anything that I am involved in, knowing that I can check with guidance on how best to communicate with that person through that gift. Back to you, Roger.
Thanks, Paul. I'll give everyone on the call a little homework assignment to do for the next few days once the call is over. And this little homework assignment, or maybe experiment is a better word, and that is start paying attention to the language of people that you interact with a lot and for yourself. Listen to people carefully and see if you can pick up, do they use the phrases of, yeah, I see that. I could see that happening. Yeah, that's good. That's a good picture. Well, that's a person who's speaking in the language of vision. If you hear people say, yeah, I know what you mean, then that's a person who is working through that gift of prophecy, at least at that moment in time. And if a person says, yeah, I understand, I got the facts, I understand that, that's your intuitive part. And the feeling person will say, that feels good. Yeah, I like this jacket. It feels good. Or I want that sofa. It just feels so comfortable to sit in. Visionary will say, well, that sofa looks good. And, so listen to the language of people around you, and it will give you some, key insights into who and what, and listen to yourself. What kind of, if you use all of those words of, I know, I see, I understand, I feel, if you use all of them, that means you're pretty balanced. If you use one, then that's another indication as well. But anyway, it's kind of a fun little experiment to start listening to the language of people that's around you, because it starts giving you some powerful hints as to how better to understand them. Okay, for the next phase, we've got about 10 more minutes to go here, so I appreciate everyone hanging in with us. We've been at it almost 50 minutes now, but we'll be wrapping up here in the next 10 to 12 minutes. So from the next phase that we're going to be moving to is ways that, to learn more. How could you, learn more and discover more about this topic of a dynamic extrasensory perception? Well, one tool or one way to learn more is within our organization of New Spiritual Horizons. We have a private 1-hour session. It's like a spiritual orientation consultation. It's a private one-on-one session, and in that session you will learn what the order is of your ESP types. Out of the 4 that we talked about, you'll find out what's your first gift, what's your second, what's your third, what's your fourth, and what that means to you to help you to better understand yourself better. And then secondly, as a part of this, you're going to find out how many angels or spirit guides you have for this lifetime. You'll actually learn how to ask questions and how to listen to those answers that come back. And working with my angels is like being attuned to the still small voice within. Within each of us, we have that still small voice that we listen to every now and then. But one of the things that we don't learn how to do is how to ask questions. We might be pretty good at listening to that voice or that angelic help when it comes, but how many of us are really taught to learn how to ask questions when we need help rather than just waiting for help to come. So this is a very, very simple but powerful 1-hour session that you learn those two primary aspects. And this is something that Paul and I, we both do this session, as well. There's other leaders within our organization. And we do this session in person as well as by telephone and Skype. We try to do it in person first, but sometimes because of distance, it can still be effectively done remotely as well, and it gets you on your track. It's 1 hour, and the cost on that is $75. Is there anything else you'd like to add on this one, Paul?
A couple things that come to my mind is that you may have, and with the direction that Roger gave you, to take a look at how you are relating to people around you and they relate to you, may have an inkling of those perceptions and how you operate. One of the things that we do is by working with the guides to help us understand it better, we actually take a look at how you were born with those perceptions. How did you come into planet Earth in that organized way? Because, you know, you could be around a visionary mother or an intuitive father that stimulates you to act and get involved in certain ways, or certain careers can be very dynamic in bringing out one of those perceptions. We want to get back to the natural way that you were born with that, so that you can start to trust yourself much, much more clearly and dynamically. The other thing, too, that it talks about that spiritual energy flow, we actually take a look at your psychic sensitivity or your ESP sensitivity. Is how much is it working for you or against you? ESP is neither good or bad. It's what you do with it. It's how you discern and work with it. So you learn, and then you learn a technique to help that, so that awareness, that sensitivity becomes a valuable tool to help you move forward rather than something that overwhelms or buffaloes you because you're not discerning what's me and what's not me. So that hour session is just a gift that keeps on giving. I work with the concepts and the techniques that I experienced 50 years ago in this, and they still work today. So it's just a very powerful session if you have a sense for it or more questions about it, just let us know. And I think also, Roger,
thanks, Paul.
Ways that they can learn too, right?
That's right. So it's it's one of the most powerful things I did for myself to help me understand myself better, and my wife had it done, and it answers a lot of questions as to why I am the way that I am, and gives it deeper meaning. And so if this is something that you'd be interested in pursuing, for those of you who are online, you can see our telephone numbers on the screen. But for those of you who are calling in, you could call if you're interested in having it. Paul's number is, and write this down, area code 505-514-2766. And my phone number is, Roger Ringo, is 877-525-6335. Plus, this webinar is being recorded, and we will be following up, sending this out to everyone, so you can listen again. And so some of the links and phone numbers will be in there as well. Also, just in a couple more minutes, we are going to have a question and answer period, and I'll be unmuting the lines. And for those of you who are online, if you have a question, use the chat box to send it. And those of you who are on by telephone, we'll be opening up the lines for you to ask any questions for follow-up that you may have. So another way to get involved, in addition to our 1-hour sessions, private spiritual sessions, is we do workshops and seminars in various communities. And Paul and I right now are in Iowa, and we have a follow-up program this Saturday in Des Moines from this Saturday, November 3rd, from 1 to 5. And this is a technique workshop that builds upon what we talked about here today. We call it Mindful ESP, Intuition, and Life Purpose. And in this, you're going to be experiencing techniques where you'll actually do a psychometry technique. You'll learn how to cleanse and magnetize your aura, which helps to neutralize any negativity around you. You start getting a sense for what the feeling is like when you're involved in your life purpose. And we'll also be going over different topics of life after death, purpose of angels in your life, cycles of life, a lot of very interesting topics in this. And it's all about creating a deeper soul healing so I can start enjoying life more. You know, because one of the reasons why we don't enjoy life that I find is that I really don't understand the game and understand why I experience what it is I experience and how to kind of protect myself better from other people's thoughts and feelings. And so this Saturday afternoon from 1 to 5 here in Des Moines will be powerful help to give some tools for that. To learn more about location and details more, you can visit www.newspiritualhorizons.com and just click on events, and that will take you to our page that will describe the program this Saturday here in Des Moines. And Paul, you want to talk about what's happening in Omaha on November 10th?
Sure. We're going to do a similar session, not quite as long. It's called Harnessing Your Extrasensory Perception and Demonstrations, and we're going to explore all of the things that we talked about tonight, but especially more about the kind of the bigger picture of all the ways to be more successful with the spiritual and metaphysical methods that you can practice every day. We'll do a simple form of levitation where with the 8 fingers, we actually lift a person high up out of a chair with just no effort at all. And it shows how we can harness all of the powers that we have to make life something more simple and easy to do. We will do that self-healing and spiritual aura cleansing technique to help you be able to create an energy that kind of cuts through any negativity or confusion. Becomes a real power point in your own inner awareness. And some other really fun things that we're going to do. You can learn more about that at www.meetup.com/Nebraska-psychic-meetup. www.meetup.com/Nebraska-psychic-meetup. And that actually takes you to the meetup page, and you can even join the meetup if you're in the Omaha area. You can actually join the meetup and get announcements about all the different things that we're going to be continuing to do. So, and that'll have the place and the cost for it and so forth. So, join us in Omaha if you like. So I think right now we'll open up the lines. Roger, see if anybody has any questions in the chat or via phone. They can relay them and let us know how we can answer those and be of service. Anybody have any questions out there?
Phone lines?
No, thank you. I don't have any questions, but thank you very much. That was a good presentation.
No, thank you so much. Anyone else? Or comments?
There's a question came in, Paul, from about the workshop in Des Moines, and the price on the Saturday's workshop is $55, and you can pre-register ahead of time or just pay at the door.
It's also
Any other questions?
You know, that's at the Unity Center in Des Moines on 34th Street, just south of Grand. Unity Center of Des Moines. Yes, anyone else? All right, well, if there's no other question, we want to thank everybody for attending today. Really appreciate your energy input. Believe it or not, we can feel you out there. It just feels great. It's nice to have folks of like minds that want to explore and learn together. So I think the biggest message that we have is having the courage, just be you. Just go to your activities tomorrow, just being you and enjoying who you are and the fact that you're doing the best you know how, and you're going to learn how to do it better every day. If some of these kinds of ideas may help that, then again, just let us know. And a part of it is to believe in myself enough so that I can really go after my heart's desire and achieve some of those dreams. Not just try to dream, but I am the dream. Just live that. Roger?
Yeah, I want to thank you all for coming, and those of you in the Des Moines area, check out our program, come to the website, anyone in Omaha, and also we have people from other parts of the country on the webinar today, and we have this really intriguing 12-week local community program of New Spiritual Horizons that will help you start finding those answers that you've always been wondering about but never could, find a source for. And if you have some friends that would like to explore this, let us know. We'll be sending out some other announcements and a link to listen to this again. But let us know if you have interest in your area. We love to travel. We love to get out and meet people in all different communities. So it's not like getting on a horse and a wagon train heading out to California. Boom or bust. It's pretty easy to get anywhere on planet Earth nowadays. So let us know, and really appreciate you attending and looking forward to having our paths cross again sometime. So thanks a lot, and happy trails.
Have a good night, everybody.